You're listening to 87.1 Caroline Radio. This is Aaron Richmond, host of the Aaron's Opinion podcast where we talk about critical issues in the blindness community. Welcome back, listener. How are you? And I'm glad you had a good week. I'm doing all right. This evening, or this morning, or this afternoon, whenever this is, you are, or we are speaking with Olga Mahler. Olga lives in Australia. She's blind and she has a very, very interesting story. She's also a YouTuber, but we'll get into that later. Olga, why don't you start by talking about where you grew up and your life story in a nutshell in the next 30 minutes, how you came to Australia and your life. Go.
Okay, so thank you, Aaron, for inviting me. I do have a story to tell. I originally come from Ukraine. I was born in a family of blind parents, so I know the whole blind kitchen inside out. And my parents, in return, were born in a very peculiar era, post World War II. And Soviet time. Obviously, Ukraine used to be part of the Soviet Union. So certain things that they grew up with obviously were reflected in the way they were bringing me up. Basically, from very first days, I had to learn life is tough. You have to fight, all those sort of principles. And I'm glad life is not that tough. You do not have to fight for everything, but that's something I had to learn over the course of my life. From the age of 6, I actually went to a boarding school for the blind because in the Soviet times and after when the Soviet Union fell apart, actually, people with disabilities were kind of segregated from the mainstream society. Sorry for my English if I use some funny terms. That's not because
Your English. Your English is fine, Olga. You're doing
thank you.
totally
Thank
fine. No worries.
Yes, so all kids up until now with disabilities go to separate boarding schools. So, for example, kids who have hearing problems, they go to the boarding school for kids with hearing problems, or someone with cerebral palsy would go to the boarding school where kids only with cerebral palsy are. And often, because of the shortage of those schools, you would be away from your home for the entire term and go back home just for the school holidays. And that's from very early age. So my boarding school was 350 kilometers away from where my parents lived. So they would drop me off, say bye-bye, left some lollies, and that's it. I would see them in a couple of months. From early age, I had to learn to do my own laundry, take care of myself, and just be sort of on my own in a way. So that definitely shaped my character in a certain way. Also, being in the boarding school where everyone else is the same creates certain environment. If you're blind, you don't have to challenge yourself as much if you're studying among students with the same health problems in comparison to the way it's done in the United States, because I've studied in the United States for a year as an exchange student in year 11. So I've tried it on, and it was scary as to come from a blind school to a normal public school, So I had that zone of very, very much comfort where I could study, I could learn different extracurriculum things, like I was singing in the choir, dancing. I was playing chess. I know it's not popular in the Western world as much as it was in Soviet countries. Well, still is. I actually made it to the professional level and traveled a bit playing chess. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is that I was growing up in the environment where I could really blossom on the one hand, because I wasn't afraid, I didn't stand out. Everyone was the same. But on the other hand, as soon as I had to step out of that environment, I was absolutely unprepared. In fact, I was so much unprepared that for a while after the boarding school, I was in a way hiding. And it took a lot of willpower, it took a lot of courage to get active, to get, to start functioning, to set goals, to set sort of success aims, I have master's degree in translation and interpreting and teaching English as a second language. I obtained that from a Ukrainian university. I also have a certificate in medical nursing and massage therapy. I have worked in both of those areas, and actually the reason why I did a massage and nursing course wasn't so much initially because I was going to work as massage therapist. I actually just wanted to specialize in medical translation, because in post-Soviet countries, massage is taught at a totally different level than I noticed in the Western world. It's a big deal. So to become a massage therapist, I had to do full-time 3-year course. I had to do job placement, when you do your sort of practice hours at hospitals. Basically, they train you to be almost like a physiotherapist. So we had to take such subjects as surgery, for example, or pathology or microbiology. So I knew that, and I thought, wow, I will get really great insight into the medical field. And it would greatly help me in my translation career, and it did. I have worked in medical translation for a few years, pretty much while I was studying massage. But toward the end of my course, there was 2012 big soccer tournament, if you remember. And it took place in Ukraine. So they've been improving infrastructure like crazy. They were building new hotels. And in my city, I, by the way, come from Kharkiv, that's on the border with Russia. They built a 5-star hotel, like all marble and orchids and, 11-story long chandelier. Anyway, so that's where I got a job as massage therapist because I could speak English, and I had proper training in massage. And that was the turning point in my life, to be honest. Basically, that was the time when I turned from a gray mouse, brown mouse, into, I don't know, a blossoming flower. I'm sorry to call myself that, but that's something that just came to my mind. Does it make sense?
It does, yes.
Oh, great. Okay. And I'll explain what I mean a bit more in details. Basically, after the boarding school, I was very much, as I said before, afraid of the real world. So I was trying to avoid situations where I had to challenge myself, where I would even just have to um, explain that I'm blind. I have always had really low vision. It probably deteriorated pretty much to zero in my 20s. So as a teenager, I could still see a little bit, but definitely not enough to safely get around without cane. But that's exactly what I did until I was 22, 23 probably. That's the first time in my blind life I took cane in my hands. And not because that's the time when my vision got very, very much worse. It's just the time when I met someone from actually Holland, and he was a cane user, and he said, how can you not be using cane? Why are you embarrassed of it? Why are you embarrassed of yourself? That's just you. That's just who you are. You know, your safety is first, but also, you know, it gives you freedom. And that just so resonated and clicked in my head. And I just started using my cane, and it emboldened me. It so much emboldened me. And I started poking my head out. I posted my CV for, you know, for the job that I got in the end at that hotel. And I was invited and interviewed in different languages because the manager actually was German. So I did part of the interview in English, part of the interview in German because I could speak German. And I got the job. And oh my goodness, oh miracle, I realized sighted people actually not, you know, they accept me as I am. Sighted people actually value me. And it was just absolutely, you know, eye-opening for me. I had no idea that I could be a friend to a sighted person. I don't know, it probably sounds really weird in the Western world, the way you guys grew up in America or wherever you listen, what other countries, you know, your listeners are from. But, you know, for me, that was the reality. I'm not ashamed of talking about it. I, in fact, hope that it may inspire someone, you know, to take action, to, you know, get a bit more active in their life, whatever they're struggling with. And so by the time I got the job, I had been divorced. I got married to my classmate from my boarding school, of course, because I had no slightest, you know, intention to date someone sighted. I would be absolutely terrified even to think about it. So of course I married a classmate, and I was 19, he was 20. Pretty much straight away we cooked a baby, and we both were students, university students at that time. So as you can imagine, having a baby, being university students, being that young, it was tough, it was unmanageable. So by the age of 23, I was a single mom, divorced, and that time just a student of the medical college, learning massage, unemployed. It was definitely not adding any confidence to me. But then I get the job. I start building up my self-confidence, and I think, oh my goodness, I need to try to remarry, and remarry maybe even someone, you know, like not necessarily among people with disabilities. So I tried, I dared, I would say. I was really terrified to do that, to post my what do you call it? Profile on the international dating site. It was kind of like escape again in a way from reality, because you didn't have to face a person in the real world. You didn't have straight away to say, oh, I'm blind.